What's up, guys? I'm going to be playing some Dark Souls 3 today. Gonna do a little bit of a walkthrough and a playthrough, and somewhat. And I've beaten this game several times, so I more or less know how the game works. I wouldn't call myself an expert though, so I'm going to say it's rather a playthrough than a walkthrough. But I will give some hints and tips here and there about how to effectively play, based on my knowledge at least. Here we go to start off a new game.
Yes.
Character name doesn't really matter. Do something like Argoth. As for your classes, there's of course several different classes to pick from. For what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a strength build. What I personally recommend is the warrior. I know a lot of people might say deprived is the best class, even though it's harder at the start of the game, because your stats all start off even at level 1. But it's not necessarily true, because if you look right here, while these other classes do already have pre-assigned stats, some of the stats that they have are lower than 10. And for deprived, if you don't really care for certain stats, like you're trying to go for like a dexterity build for instance, and you don't really care about your strength or your vitality that much for instance, then you might not want those stats to start off at 10, because even if you reset your level using one of the factions such as like Mound Makers, then it would be less effective because you would have less stat points to distribute accordingly, since you would actually lose them on stats that you don't need, since everything starts up at 10. So I'm going to personally recommend warrior for a strength build, since dexterity, faith, intelligence, and attunement all start off lower than 10, and you don't really need those for a strength build. Maybe dexterity a little bit, depending on what type of weapon you want to use. Burial gifts, this honestly doesn't really matter that much. Pretty much everything here you can find or buy in game. The only thing that I usually go with is the Sovereignless Soul, because you get free souls out of it. And since I personally don't need any of this stuff, I rarely ever use it. I usually just go Sovereignless Soul, but that's up to you. Your choice. Definitely don't recommend the life ring though, that thing sucks. Kinda looks like Leon from Resident Evil. This, just so that doesn't really matter. First thing I'll do is unequip the shield. Personally, I never use the shield. I know some people like to use it to deflect blows, but I guess if you're pretty careful about how you strike, you can easily get backstabs off, so using the shield is kind of pointless to me. This Ashen Estus Flask, as soon as we get a chance, we're going to go ahead and replace that with a regular Estus Flask. Since this is a strength build, we have no use for an Ashen Estus Flask. time we would ever use that is if we have some sort of special weapon that uses like fire or something. But most of those weapons aren't really great for shooting. Not a big fan of this weapon. Kind of slow. Like that in your second playthrough, I believe they give you a magic stone plate ring over here. Right at the start of the medium quest. I mean, it's not the best ring, but it's definitely better than some of the other ones out there. I know a lot of people don't like to go out of their way over here and fight these skeleton guys. But personally, I'm a bit of a completionist, so I like to get this stuff anyways, even if I know I can get it later. I know there's a firebomb over here. And those fading souls are also pretty shitty. I think they give like, what, 10 souls each? I don't know, if you get a lot of them though, it should be fine. Because they do a lot in large amounts. For Iodex Gundr over here, some people don't know this, but on your very first battle with them, before you activate the fog wall over here and he's automatically active, you can actually score a few extra hits off right after removing the sword. This is before his health bar even appears on the screen. Best to get off as many hits as possible. argue that since it's the first boss, he should be easy, but I mean, I wouldn't say that's always the case, because some of the bosses are much easier than others, even earlier on. Like the skeleton boss that comes right before the Boreal Valley. The Skeleton King, or whatever his name is. He's like the easiest boss in the game. The shielded opponents, and so they always have their shields up. There's actually a way you can force them to attack. If you smack their shield once, they automatically do a lunge back with their spear, try and strike you. And that's whenever you dodge once, and then they'll do a second lunge, a longer lunge. You dodge a second time, get behind them, and you can do an easy backstab because they're super vulnerable. That's usually how I take care of the shielded zombies. I'm actually not going to go off to the left right now because that samurai guy, the lion samurai, is way too difficult for this very slow axe that I'm using at the moment. I need a better, faster weapon. What I'm gonna do before I forget is need at least 1 point in dexterity.
One item to very well then take.
Because I'm gonna be using the broadsword, which is definitely my most recommended weapon, at least early game. It's so useful up until almost the end of the game. There's very few weapons that are better than it. And I'm also gonna allot that Estus over to regular Estus.
Okay, be careful.
Alright, I'm gonna come back next time. On the next episode, we're gonna go over to Lothric Castle. I'm gonna get that broadsword. And after I get the broadsword, we're probably gonna come back here and kill the samurai. So stay tuned.